And they'd never had to register as FARA, but they did this right in the beginning. And guess what? FARA came back and said, we don't care. We can bring that up, that timeline. FARA came back and said, we don't care. Okay, that's not going to change anything. You are actually going to still have to register. It doesn't matter how many press articles are written. We are going to interpret this according to the law and not according to the feelings of Jewish Zionists in America. And so they go on, and you go back through this timeline, and it gets more and more aggressive. And finally, what happens is that Hoover, who was heading up the FBI at that time, says, do you want me to get involved? Is it time now for us to swoop in as the FBI and essentially say, you register or else? Like, are we at the point now essentially where we need to make arrests? And they're getting very serious about this because they had already ordered for them to register within 10 days. And they still declined to do it. They still did not move whatsoever. And so they're sort of mulling this over, like, should we get the feds involved at a higher level? Should we get the FBI involved rather? And suddenly, FARA comes back as well and says, like, we absolutely think that we should get them involved. Then you see this, like, measly attempt from the AZC Council to say, well, will it suffice if we show you our income statements? And FARA says, absolutely not. This is absurd. This is a year on now, again, leading up to Kennedy's death. And you can see there on October 11th, 1963, the DOJ demands for AZC to register. The department expects a response from you within 72 hours with regards to this matter. And then you can see on the 17th that Walter Yeagley noted of a DOJ AZC a meeting that they essentially said they were making a plea for no registration, stating it was the opinion of most of the people that were affiliated with the council that such a registration would be so publicized by the American Council on Judaism that it would eventually destroy the Zionist movement. Now, I want you to think about that. If all you have to do to be, like, it's not a crime, you can be a foreign agent, right? If all you have to do once you become registered under FARA is to reveal your expenditures, reveal how you are being funded, allow people to understand where you are getting this money from, why would they be this opposed to it? A year on, using lawyers, calling judges to get involved, trying to persuade the public, trying to essentially cause a smear campaign and saying that it's going to radically shift Jewish opinion, that it's going to put the Zionist movement on pause. What would it have plausibly revealed if they had done that? I don't know the answer to this. And I'm never going to know the answer to this because what we do know is that a couple of weeks later, JFK got shot. Okay. Now, if you're instantly connecting the dots and going, oh, well, of course, it must have been a Zionist who did this, I think that would be a little bit too far of a stretch. But when you compare the policies of JFK, who did not want them to be funded, and what was running parallel to this, of course, was that he was on the phone arguing, screaming, having fights with Prime Minister Ben-Gurion of Israel, because he also did not want Israel as a state to become nuclearly armed, okay? And they're fighting on the phone. They still won't declassify these arguments that he was having, but they absolutely were at each other's throats and they hated each other. And he was very opposed to the Dimona reactor. This is something that you can even find in speeches like the Gaddafi speech. When he speaks about what really happened to JFK, everybody knows that he was strongly opposed to Israel and nuclear armament. He kind of just leaves that out there. When you add those two things together, you go, okay, well, would it be a conspiracy to suggest that Ben-Gurion and the state of Israel hated him and he was opposed to them and he was opposed to them getting funding and he was opposed to them having undue influence in American politics, and then he dies? And then you weigh that against the fact that the problem for them instantly disappeared as soon as JFK died. Because what happened was that when Lyndon B. Johnson got into office, he was the vice president, all of their problems were instantly resolved because he reversed course on everything. What is interesting is that LBJ essentially employed the exact opposite policies of JFK. He was fundamentally pro-war, okay? Vietnam, Cambodia, the bombing campaigns. And it didn't come out until quite recently that he helped Israel get established as a state by secretly helping to transport weapons, exactly what JFK was against, exactly what Eisenhower before him was against. he secretly helped to transport weapons to Israel while he was in Congress. Now, don't take my word for it. If I said that fact, it would be anti-Semitic, right? Let's take that fact instead from the Israeli newspaper Haaretz. This is literally an Israeli publication. They publish daily. They wrote, quote, this article you can see is entitled, Lyndon Johnson, Israel has had no better friend. Historians generally regard Johnson as the president most uniformly friendly to Israel. And then it says, after John F. Kennedy was killed and Lyndon Johnson became the 36th president, LBJ told an Israeli diplomat, you have lost a very great friend, but you have found a better one.